When my mother-in-law called me a failure at my husband's birthday party, I smiled and said a single sentence that shattered their world in seconds. What happened next, they'll remember for the rest of their lives. My name is Jennifer, and I want to tell you a story about how 10 years of silence turned into one moment of absolute freedom. It all began on that stifling August evening, seated at a festive table laden with dishes I'd spent all day preparing. In front of me was a cake with 37 candles, my husband Michael's birthday. His mother presided at the head of the table like a true queen. Champagne glass in hand, her oversized earrings swayed in time with her booming laughter, drowning out every other voice. To my left sat Michael's younger sister, snapping her third selfie of the night with the cake, a cake I paid for, by the way. She hadn't contributed a dime to this celebration, but her Instagram was already exploding with photos of the perfect family evening. "Pretty great night, huh?" Michael whispered, reaching for another piece of fried chicken. I nodded with a strained smile, but inside I felt like a ghost. Same old story, I work, they enjoy. All week I'd stayed late at the office, cooked, shopped for groceries, bought decorations, even a new tablecloth. And what did I get? Not a single thank you. Raised her glass, her voice ringing out grandly. "To my wonderful son, strong, handsome, brilliant." She glanced at me, her lips curling into that fake smile I despised. Everyone raised their glasses. I stayed silent. I was picking at my plate when leaned back in her chair, laughing loudly at another of jokes about how she'd quit yet another job. Suddenly, she turned to me, her voice cutting through the chatter like a knife. "So, Jenny," she said with a smirk that twisted my stomach, "how's it feel to be such a failure?" The room froze, then everyone laughed. Michael laughed, cackled so hard she choked on her drink. I didn't laugh. I looked at the clink of forks against plates filled the air. Someone coughed awkwardly. I slowly set down my napkin and smiled, a calm, quiet smile that made blink. Leaning forward slightly, I said clearly, "And how's it feel to know this failure won't be paying your bills anymore?" Dead silence, face drained of color like she'd seen a ghost, her glass trembled in her hand. Michael's fork froze halfway to his mouth, his jaw dropped. I didn't blink, I didn't yell, I just smiled, letting the words hang in the air. The room felt ice cold. Tried to laugh it off. "What do you mean?" I looked down at my plate. Exactly what I said. Pushed her chair back. "Jenny, you okay?" Her voice dripped with mockery. "You're acting kinda weird." I didn't respond. Years of silence were over. This time I wasn't explaining anything. Finally, Michael spoke. "What are you talking about, Jenny?" I met his gaze, didn't answer, just picked up my purse, stood slowly, and pushed in my chair like a polite guest. "I think I'm done with this birthday," I said calmly. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Her hands shook. She looked around the room for support, but everyone was frozen. Without another word, I walked to the door. Each step felt like shedding a heavy coat. The air outside was cooler than I expected. For the first time in years, I could hear my own thoughts clearly, and they were saying, "Enough." It hadn't always been like this. When Michael and I got married, I believed in him more than anyone. He had big dreams, starting his own IT company, becoming independent. I believed every word. Back then, love made me see him as a visionary, not a man without a plan. I remember him coming home 2 months after our wedding, announcing he quit his job. "Toxic environment," he said. "I need time to think, to build something real." I supported him. "Take as long as you need," I told him. So I started working double shifts, took extra hours at the office, cleaned tables in the evenings. I told myself a few months, a year at most. A year turned into 3, then 5, and now we were nearing our 10th anniversary, and Michael hadn't worked a steady job in all that time. I paid for everything: rent, utilities, groceries, his phone, his gym membership, even tuition. Not because I wanted to, but because his mom asked, and Michael said, "She's family, we have to help." Never thanked me. Instead, she'd say things like, "Some women are just built for service, always giving, it's sweet." To her friends, she'd whisper, "Jenny's practical, not but reliable like a workhorse." I heard it all and stayed silent. Every Christmas, I bought the tree, wrapped the gifts, and signed her name on them so she could pretend they were from her. Every birthday, I bought the cake, the food, the presents, and she'd smile proudly. "Look what I got you, Michael." He never corrected her. I told myself, it's fine, one day they'll see. one day they'll thank me, but that day never came. One evening, I came home from work with a migraine so bad I could barely see. I found on the couch, watching a movie, dirty plates on the table, the air thick with burnt popcorn. And I said softly, "Can you help clean up while I'm at work?" She blinked and smiled. "I thought that was your job, dear." Michael said nothing. That night I didn't cry, but I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a mistake. Should love feel like carrying 10 people on your back while they laugh at you? Should marriage feel like loneliness with a ring on your finger? And yet I cooked, cleaned, smiled because I told myself, "You're strong, you hold it all together." But what I didn't realize, when people see you do everything without complaint, they don't call you strong, they call you a fool. Started asking for more. "My roof's leaking, can you help? Needs new clothes for interviews." I paid, kept paying, kept smiling, but inside I was fatting. Until one day at work, my boss, Mr. Harrison, called me into his office. I braced for a lecture about being late. I'd missed a morning meeting because Michael asked me to drop off his dry cleaning. Instead, he looked at me with kindness. "Jenny, when was the last time someone took care of you?" I didn't know how to answer. I went back to my desk and sat motionless for 10 minutes. That question stuck in my head like a splinter. When was the last time someone took care of me? That night I came home, cooked dinner for everyone, and quietly watched them eat, laugh, and leave me with the dishes. Standing at the sink, washing plate after plate, a single thought rose in my chest like smoke. I'm not weak. I'm just tired of pretending this is love. The day everything changed started like any other. I was up at 5:30 making breakfast for the house, ironing Michael's shirt, slipping out quietly while they slept. I got to the office early, sorting through emails. Mr. Harrison came by an hour later with a smile, setting a coffee on my desk, my favorite, hazelnut with oat milk. "Jenny, you've been killing it lately," he said. "The board's noticed." I smiled politely, unsure where this was going. He gestured for me to follow him to his office. Inside, he closed the door and handed me an envelope. "You're being promoted, senior project manager, bigger office, better salary, and I'd like you to join me for a 2-week business trip to Chicago. You'll lead the presentations." For a moment I just stared at him. A promotion, me, my throat tightened. I should been proud, but all I could think was, who'll cook, who'll pay the internet bill, who'll drive to her interviews? "Thank you, Mr. Harrison," I said. "I need to think about it." He didn't push. "You deserve a life that's more than just being everyone else's support system." That sentence haunted me all the way home. At home, I found sprawled on the couch watching a reality show, feet propped on the armrest like she owned the place. Was in the kitchen, loudly complaining about a broken charger. Michael was in the bedroom, gaming with his headset on. No one asked how my day was. No one noticed I was late. I set the promotion letter on the counter and watched it sit there, untouched, for hours. The next morning at breakfast, I mentioned it. "I got offered a promotion." Sipped her tea. "Won't that mean more stress? You already look exhausted." Rolled her eyes. "Is it even worth it? You're doing fine as is." Michael didn't look up from his phone. "Congrats, babe, can you work from home?" I said nothing. That evening in the bathroom, brushing my teeth, I caught my reflection. I looked older than my years, tired, worn down, not from work, from them. That's when it started, the quiet changes. I began tracking every bill I paid, made a spreadsheet: rent, groceries, water, gas, emergency fund, hairdresser, every dollar, every cent. I looked at the numbers and felt sick. I wasn't just carrying them, I was drowning with them. One morning, I got up before everyone and sat at the kitchen table, staring at my laptop screen. I opened a new bank account. It took less than 10 minutes. I called it Plan B. At work, I accepted the promotion. Mr. Harrison smiled so warmly I nearly cried. "Let me know if you need help organizing things. I know personal life can get in the way." I nodded, holding back tears. He had no idea. From that day, I saved every bonus, every side gig, every overtime hour. I stopped offering to cover household expenses. Instead, I quietly watched what happened when I didn't step in. One evening the power went out, screamed, banged on my door. I shrugged, must be an issue with the payment. Michael asked if I could cover it just this once. I said, I'll think about it. That night I slept soundly for the first time in years. They didn't know it, but the woman they called a failure was quietly building an exit, dollar by dollar. I used to think betrayal came with noise, shouting, slamming doors, breaking glass. Turns out it comes in whispers, quiet voices behind half-closed doors. It happened on a Wednesday. I came home from work early, feeling off, head pounding, a heaviness in my chest. I just wanted to lie down. Walking in, I noticed something strange. The living room was quiet, too quiet, no TV, no laughter. Then I heard voices from the hallway. I stopped. His bedroom door was ajar. The voice came first. She's getting cocky, acting like she's better than us. Heard she got a raise. Snorted. She thinks she's smart, but let's see how smart she is when Michael divorces her and she's left with nothing. My heart sank. She's just a walking wallet, Mom scoffed. She won't even fight back, too soft, just make her feel guilty. You're good at that. Chuckled. Don't worry, I've been doing it for years. I stood frozen, not angry, not shocked, just empty. The night before I cooked their dinner. Last week I'd paid their electric bill, and they were planning how to use Michael to take everything from me. Slowly, quietly, I stepped back. They didn't hear me. I went straight to my bedroom, closed the door softly, and sat on the edge of the bed. Everything felt still. I'd ignored so many signs, the way belittled me in front of guests, how used my things without asking, how Michael always said they didn't mean it like that, but they meant exactly that, every word. I opened my laptop, pulled up Plan B. It was time to move faster. The next morning, during my lunch break, I called a lawyer, a woman named Carol with a calm, sharp voice. I've been financially supporting my husband and his family for nearly 10 years, I said. I want out, but quietly for now. She didn't ask why, she didn't need to, just said, I've seen worse, I'll walk you through it. I felt relief, a strange calm I hadn't known in years. After work, I drove by a quiet apartment complex 20 minutes away. Nothing fancy, just a small, clean, peaceful unit. I asked about availability, and by the next week, I'd signed a lease in my maiden name. It was mine. For the first time in a decade, something belonged only to me. Back home, things were unraveling. Complained about the grocery budget. Jenny, you forgot the milk again. Whined about slow internet. Can you just call the provider already? Michael suddenly cared about my mood. You okay? You've been so quiet lately. I smiled. Just tired, long days. But my eyes weren't tired anymore, they were awake. I stopped cooking extra portions, bought fewer groceries, said the bank froze one of my cards so I couldn't use it for a while. They panicked, I watched. Hinted I should ask for a loan at work, started rifling through my things when she thought I wasn't looking. And Michael, he got sweet again, bringing me tea, asking about work, holding my hand. Too late, I'd already given Carol a full list of my income and expenses for his family over the past 9 years, every dollar accounted for, every insult burned into memory. Now I knew I wasn't crazy, I wasn't ungrateful, I wasn't weak, I was a woman being used, and I was almost ready to stop pretending I didn't know it. By Michael's birthday, everything was set. A new apartment in my maiden name, a bank account only I could access, a lawyer who knew exactly what went on behind closed doors, and a folder of documents, receipts, bills, transfer records, screenshots. 9 years of proof that I'd paid for nearly everything while the people I kept afloat called me a failure. But I didn't show my hand yet, not time. At home I played the part, asked for new slippers, I smiled, said I'd look after my next paycheck, hinted at a girls' trip, I said I'd think about it. Michael wanted steak and wine for his birthday, I bought them without complaint. They were too comfortable, too certain I'd always be quiet, but now I was quiet with purpose. One evening I walked into the living room and turned off the TV mid-show, looked at me like I was insane. I need to talk to everyone, I said calmly. They gathered slowly, Michael still chewing, scrolling her phone, looking bored. I've been thinking a lot about how this family works, I said, about who gives and who takes. Michael frowned. What's with the drama? No drama, I said, just clarity. They shifted uncomfortably. I've paid the bills for this house, cooked every meal, cleaned, covered rent, passed up promotions and opportunities, all for people who never once said thank you. Scoffed. What, you want a medal? Laughed. You're acting like you're the only one who works. I looked at them and said nothing because I wasn't trying to convince them. I was preparing. After that night, I quietly stopped covering utilities, first the internet, then the heat. When the gas got cut off, yelled. What kind of house is this? I can't even heat my tea. I shrugged. Must be a billing error. Pounded on my door. Jenny, the internet's dead. I smiled softly. Guess the payment didn't go through. Michael approached, confused. Are we having money issues? You never miss payments. I kissed his cheek. Even failures mess up sometimes, don't they? He didn't know what to say. I didn't care. Every day I transferred more to my secret account. Every dollar felt like a brick laid in my future, a future without them. Then came the invitation. Michael's birthday, a big family celebration. Wanted to invite her sister and cousins, make it a real party. She even asked me to buy the wine. I agreed happily because that night would be the end of my role as the silent servant. The night before the dinner, I didn't sleep printing documents. The folder was ready, divorce papers for Michael, a financial summary of all my expenses, an eviction notice for and from my lawyer, all signed, all set. I tucked the folder neatly into my purse. The next morning I dressed slowly, chose a simple, elegant blue dress, curled my hair, applied light makeup. When I walked into the dining room that evening, the table groaned with food. Laughter, clinking glasses, plates piled with food I'd paid for, was in top form. Look at my son, 37 and still so young. Snapped photos, Michael stood to give a toast. To the woman who's always there, my rock, my Jenny. Everyone clapped, giggled, and turned to me. How's it feel, Jenny, to be such a failure? She asked, raising her glass. Everyone laughed except me. I smiled and said, and how's it feel to know this failure won't be paying your bills anymore? And just like that, everything stopped. The silence was deafening. You could hear a fork drop, stared at me like I'd slapped her. His jaw hung open. Michael didn't know whether to laugh or panic. What do you mean? Finally asked, her voice shaking. I pulled the folder from my purse and slowly placed 3 sealed envelopes on the table. I didn't raise my voice, didn't cry, didn't beg for respect like I used to. Just set an envelope in front of Michael and... What's this? Michael asked. Everything, I said, everything I've held in for 9 years. Open them. Grabbed hers and tore it open. Her eyes scanned the pages, her face shifting from confusion to horror. Is this an eviction notice? I nodded. I own the lease, the one you thought Michael handled. It's been in my name since year 2 of our marriage. I paid the deposit, the rent every month. You have 30 days to find a new place. Jumped up like she'd been shocked. You can't do this. Where are we supposed to live? That's not my problem, I said calmly. For 9 years I solved your problems, now you solve your own. Michael finally opened his envelope. His hands shook as he unfolded the divorce papers. His face went pale. Jenny, is this for real, divorce? Completely real. Stood so fast she knocked over her chair. You can't just destroy everything, we're family. For the first time in years I laughed, not bitterly, not hysterically, just genuinely laughed. Family, you and were planning to have Michael divorce me to take everything I have. I heard every word. Their faces turned to ash. Michael turned to his mother. Mom, what's she talking about? Stammered. We were just talking. You were talking about using your son to leave me with nothing, I cut in. Luckily, I have records of every transfer, every bill I paid. My lawyer says it's called financial abuse. Pretty serious charge. Tried to speak. Jenny, we can talk this out. No, I said firmly. The time for talking was 9 years ago or 8 years ago, or any of the thousands of days I stayed silent while you humiliated me. I stood, picked up my purse. The cake with 37 candles still sat untouched on the table. "Where are you going to live?" Michael asked, his voice small. I smiled. "I have an apartment, small, clean, quiet, and best of all, no one there calls me a failure while I pay for their life." I walked to the door, called after me. "Wait, we can work this out." I'd apologize for what I said. I turned. "You're not apologizing because you're sorry. You're apologizing because I'm done letting you use me. It's too late." Michael stood. "Jenny, please, we can fix this. I'll get a job." "Michael," I said softly, "you could gotten a job 9 years ago, could stood up to your mother's insults, could said thank you just once, but you didn't, and now it's too late." 6 months later, I'm sitting in my small apartment, sipping morning coffee, reading a book, birds chirp outside. The house is quiet, not the oppressive quiet of before, but the peaceful quiet of someone who can finally breathe. Mr. Harrison gave me that Chicago trip. The presentations went flawlessly, and now I'm being considered for regional director. For the first time in years, I'm thinking about my future, not just surviving until the next paycheck. Michael called for the first few weeks, left voicemails about how sorry he was, how he wanted to fix things. When he realized I wasn't coming back, the calls stopped. I heard through mutual friends he moved in with at her new rental. They finally got what they wanted, each other. Sent a long email apologizing, asking for a second chance. I deleted it without finishing it. Some bridges need to burn completely. Yesterday I ran into my neighbor in the hallway, Mrs. She invited me for tea and asked how I was doing. I realized it was the first time in years someone asked that sincerely, without expecting me to solve their problems in return. "I'm good," I said, finally good. And it's true, I'm not a failure, I'm not a walking wallet, I'm not a silent servant. I'm just a woman who learned to love herself enough to walk away. And that's the best thing I've ever done. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop being convenient for people who don't value your kindness. Sometimes the loudest thing you can say is enough, spoken quietly but firmly. Sometimes loving yourself looks like leaving, and that's okay.